I do think that bipartisan support is strengthening. I think we're doing a better job raising our voice, but we've got a long way to go. Nationally, we need to keep our visibility up so people will remember and not take us for granted. And the bipartisanship is a tradition for hydropower. So I think there's a lot of appreciation on both sides of the aisle that hydropower is important.
Welcome back to DAM, the official podcast of Northwest Hydropower. I'm your host, Austin Rohr, and I manage all things communications here at Northwest River Partners. Our guest today is no stranger to the podcast, and hopefully no stranger to you if you've been listening along. While the Northwest is rich and abundant in hydropower, it's a resource that supplies carbon-free energy from sea to shining sea. And much like Northwest River Partners exists to ensure our dams continue working for us for decades to come, the National Hydropower Association is there to advocate for hydropower on a much broader scale. A lot can happen in a year's time, and we're excited to check in once again with the president and CEO of NHA on the state of hydropower here in 2024. Malcolm, thank you for making a return to the podcast.
Pleasure to be back.
Now, as you know, we've got a big day coming up, or rather, in this case, maybe a big week coming up. Tell us about National Hydropower Day and what NHA has been cooking up for that.
Sure. Thanks for the question. National Hydropower Day celebrates all things water power. We do an awful lot for the economy. We provide power for about 30 million Americans, and we should celebrate the amazing resource that is water power. And so National Hydropower Day is a day when we do just that. We're 140 years old. We're America's first renewable resource. And so we encourage folks to celebrate this wonderful day. And it's been amazing how this holiday has taken off over the years. The amount of creative content that people are doing, the contests that they're doing, the games, the videos, it's tremendous. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about are the number of hydropower facilities that are inviting elected officials to visit their facility on and around National Hydropower Day. I find that it sometimes feels like you see a wind turbine in almost every other beer ad, but hydropower is out of sight and out of mind. We need to remind elected officials and our communities in general about the critical role that hydropower plays. So a lot of them are off. The Congress is off for the August recess. It's a great opportunity to invite your congressional delegation, your local officials to come and see your amazing facilities. So National Hydropower Day this week falls on a Saturday. So we're making it really National Hydropower Week rather than just the day. So we can celebrate it all week long, and we're going to target different regions throughout the week. So I think Friday, the 23rd of August will be when we're highlighting the Northwest and Alaska in particular. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day. We're really excited to be able to, give hydropower the shout out that it deserves really every day, but at least we can give it its own special day, right? And I think that for the people listening to this podcast, the folks who maybe aren't in the industry itself, but have a really deep passion for hydropower, for clean renewable energy and affordable energy as well, what can they do to get involved? Is there somewhere they can go? Maybe, should they be looking to NHA or maybe their local utility or somewhere that they can, put a post out there and celebrate hydropower on their very own pages?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our theme this year is Hydro Powers, because in our sense, it powers communities, it powers local job creation, powers the grid, literally, all sorts of innovation. So you can use the hashtag HydroPowers, you can use the hashtag Hydro Day, you can certainly go to NHA's webpage. I think Northwest River Partners will also be celebrating the day. So we're hoping that there's a lot of content around those hashtags and around the organizations in the space. So we're really excited about National Hydropower Day, particularly the building momentum that it seems to get. We recently learned that the governor of Alaska as well as the governor of Idaho, have both declared August 24th to be their state hydropower day. Folks who want to get involved, they could certainly use the hashtags Hydro Day, but you can also go to NHA's webpage, hydro.org, and you'll see a bunch of social toolkit to help you advertise this and celebrate this amazing resource.
That's fantastic. And I will say as well, we're planning to do some work on our own end. And so stay tuned for nwriverpartners.org. We'll find some creative ways to get that stuff to folks and make sure that anyone who wants to participate in the celebration has plenty of avenues and opportunities to do so. So really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great day this year.
We're excited. And there's the expression that imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. If I've got that expression right, I'm pleased that National Hydropower Day in the United States has inspired an International Hydropower Day that takes place, I believe, in October. So we can stay tuned for that as well to kind of have all of our friends around the globe celebrate this great resource.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll stay tuned on that. That sounds like a fantastic opportunity. Speaking of things that are coming up in October that we're excited for, we also have something else that we have to shout out here right at the top. We've got Clean Currents coming to Portland, to our own backyard here in the Northwest. What can we look forward to for this event?
Austin, thank you for the opportunity for the shameless plug. We are really excited to be coming to Portland, to be coming to the Pacific Northwest with Clean Currents. This has been kind of years in the making. We launched Clean Currents several years ago as the industry trade show for the industry by the industry. And our biggest region as an industry is the Pacific Northwest. So we wanted to get it right before we came to the Northwest. So we started this a few years ago, and we're kind of bringing it around the country, and we're glad to be in Portland in October. I think this is going to be the largest one yet. It is growing year by year. We have already exceeded our target for exhibitors. In fact, I think we are almost sold out of the exhibit space that we are willing to sell. And in part, that's because we want to keep the event balanced between the exhibitors and all that they can offer, but also make sure that our hydro asset owners, which includes both the federal fleet and the private fleet, have the opportunity to use this as a forum to get together, to problem solve, to learn from each other. It's grown into a week-long set of activities, which is great to watch.
I should also mention too, we've had some really great conversations since you and I last spoke with folks in the workforce development space, from Hydropower Foundation to FWE to NWHA to all these folks. And they've said so many great things about the opportunities that are part of Clean Currents. So I think a lot to look forward to is that there, as far as, getting some people in our own backyard excited and interested in hydropower and getting to get hands-on with some of this stuff.
Yeah, the partnerships that we're able to build by bringing it around the country are wonderful. Also, just being able to control our own trade show as an industry so that the dollars aren't flowing out of the industry, but rather can stay within the industry. And it's no surprise that because of the success of Clean Currents, NHA is now able to do more. We've now got a dynamic public affairs campaign with a great digital ad that we can also plug on your website. It's also on ours. The theme this year is that hydropower is the solution that's right in front of you. And we're able to do that because of the proceeds that we're getting from hydropower. And I think that campaign this year reached, we were targeting just policymakers and climate thought leaders. So it was a very targeted digital media campaign, but I still think we had 6.9 million views of the ad. And we did a beta testing, and it's the people who saw the ad, it definitely has given them a more favorable impression of hydropower. We wouldn't have the ability as an association to invest in that kind of advocacy, but for running our own trade show. So it keeps the dollars in the industry. Likewise, we've expanded our DC policy fleet. We've got an extra lobbyist because we're generating new revenue. So very excited both about the platform that Clean Currents provides for the industry, as well as expanding our capacity to engage. And this year, if you'll indulge me, one more shameless plug, we're actually deepening our bench even further. We know that workforce is a huge issue. We've got what some have called the silver tsunami. So many of the amazing professionals in the industry are retiring or nearing retirement. And how do we transfer that information knowledge? So we are launching our first ever curriculum, a hydropower systems principles class. That it's going to be a 40-hour-a-week curriculum. That's going to be launching in January, but we're essentially doing a one-day preview at Clean Currents in Portland in October. You can sign up on hydro.org for that class. If you are new to the industry and want to learn more, the one-day class could be a good start. If you're somebody who may not be new to the industry but is involved maybe in financing, or you're involved in the corporate, the integrated resource planning, you may want to attend this class to get a better sense of, oh, what are the damn safety issues? What are the other issues that may not be directly related, but indirectly you'd be better able to do your job? People coming over from other industries, new to the industry. So we're excited about being able to offer both the one-day class and the more in-depth 40-hour class as part of our new Hydro Academy. So that's a new thing we're doing the first kind of the day before the conference starts. So you can come to the day-long class, get a discount if you're an NHA member, and then stay for the conference and all the fun that should be involved there.
Oh, that sounds like an incredible opportunity. Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, we'll
And I
definitely be.
saw that Portland just won some award as the best foodie city in the country. So I'm excited to be coming back to Portland. It's a fun town.
We do have a plethora of the food carts here. So I don't know what specifically put them on the map for that, although it's not hard to believe with how many different options there are.
Yeah, it's a fun town, and so I'm excited to be coming back to Portland.
Yeah, well, we look forward to having you here, and there's a lot that's been going on, obviously, in the world. We're excited for the momentum that's building for hydropower coming into this month, and obviously heading through into October with all these events coming up. What else is new since we last spoke? I'm sure a lot has happened. It's an election year. It's a busy year. There's always new developments. We like to say that
Yeah,
hydropower years are like dog years. So
there's a lot that new. Let me start with maybe the reality on the ground. One thing we're seeing that's maybe not new but continuing is extreme weather, and that phenomenon in the Pacific Northwest and around the country and around the globe isn't changing. That is getting coupled now with a new development of load growth. The kind of U.S. electricity consumption has been relatively flat for decades, and folks were very excited that we were able to continue economic growth with a flat load growth of electricity. But I think after the growth with data centers and artificial intelligence, and now folks are talking about a 2, 3, 4% load growth, kind of continuous. And I've seen some load forecasts from utilities where they have significantly underestimated load growth for each of the last 3, 4 years, which is creating challenges for the grid, but also opportunities for hydropower. And frankly, my favorite example is what you guys experienced in the Pacific Northwest back in January of this year, the Martin Luther King weekend. Talk about extreme weather. You had a polar vortex, extreme cold, record wintertime peaks, and hydropower is able to follow load. We're able to, release our water when the grid needs it. And I saw some amazing charts out of BPA that showed that just as the temperatures plummeted and the load demand soared, the wind died, and it died for 2, 3 days. So we lost thousands of megawatts of wind, which only exacerbated the problem. But fortunately, hydropower is flexible, dispatchable, and was able to come to the rescue yet again. And there's stories like that occur in different parts of the country every year. So I'm excited that hydropower is able to respond to the changing realities on the ground. That's not new, but they're getting to be more severe, both the load growth and the weather events. Um, Another big item that's new is that the money's starting to flow from the bipartisan infrastructure law. So there were almost $1 billion of money for hydropower. A lot of it was dedicated through the Department of Energy under some grant programs. So there was a grant program 242 for new generation, 243 for improved efficiency, and 247 for upgrades to dam safety, environmental improvements, and resiliency. And I believe the first two grant programs are announced and the money and the checks have been cut. And the 247 grant program, which is over $500 million, DOE is still trying to get the money out the door. There have been a lot of appeals and process for figuring out who's the winner and who's the loser. Not able to give, the program was way oversubscribed, which is both good news and bad news. It's good news that there's this many people interested in investing in their fleet. It is a 30% grant, so that means whatever the federal government's providing, the private sector, private capital is at least 70%. So great that we're seeing that much investment in there. Even the $500 million can't stretch to fund every project. So we are hoping that that money gets cut this calendar year. And in fact, there may be an opportunity for another round of money that the administration has said they're also trying to do this calendar year. So excited that that the money is at least starting to flow.
Yeah, it's interesting. So many of the things you bring up here, we've kind of had little bits and pieces of throughout our last couple episodes. We talked to some folks who received a grant for a battery project, and we talked a lot about load growth and our forecast here in the Northwest, which is right on track with what you're mentioning in terms of, that 3-4% a year accumulating to, I believe, 30% over the next decade. So, I mean, it's right in track with what we're experiencing. I should also mention too that with the January event, it's very interesting. In the last few weeks or so, we've had some really hot weather here in the Northwest that has been equally challenging to deal with in its own ways. And actually, some more charts from BPA have come out that look pretty much identical to what we saw in January, but here in the summertime. So it's a incredible. It's something we always try and emphasize and communicate about, but you can never say it enough that whether it's the hottest weather or the coldest weather, hydropower is able to do that load following. And it's a really incredible capability, not only for us in our backyard, but pretty much anywhere where we have access to it.
Yeah, no, it is an amazing resource, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least share some of the headwinds we're facing. It is still, unfortunately, a controversial resource, and this isn't your grandfather's hydropower industry. The amount of sustainability standards and fish passage and extraordinary efforts that the industry makes to be able to be a good citizen and a good part of the community. But the controversy certainly remains. And I'm thinking in this particular instance, not of something in the Pacific Northwest, but an example that I'm still trying to get my arms around that occurred earlier this year, or maybe even late last year in Alabama. Huge growth in data centers. They underestimated their forecast. The new forecasts show that they're about 3 gigawatts short in just a few years. So they suddenly feel this need to build a lot of new generation in just a few years. Alabama, Southern Company, has a climate goal. So they propose to build 3,000 megawatts of solar, which is great, and firm it up by building the Chandler Mountain pump storage facility. And that way you could have pump storage be providing clean, firm support to complement the solar when the sun sets. Unfortunately, that was considered controversial. Not so much Chandler Mountain, but more the solar as controversial. And so when the commission scrapped the solar, they scrapped Chandler Mountain, and instead they approved 3 new combined cycle natural gas plants, which is incredibly frustrating to me. If we think we're going to have a reliable, clean energy grid, building new natural gas I'm afraid those are going to be the stranded assets of the next generation, and not the way we go. I was pretty excited about the combination of building more pump storage to balance out the growth in variable renewables. I still think that's the overall trend, but I don't think we should get complacent. It's not inevitable, and we're certainly facing setbacks and headwinds.
And it's important to, in the same way that oftentimes we communicate about some of our challenges here in the Northwest as maybe an example of what could happen in other places. It's important for us to look to an example like that and recognize what can happen if we don't learn from some of these examples and try to, improve our own plans here in our own backyard.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed. One of the challenges that I'm kind of increasingly recognizing is that pump storage in particular, but I think hydropower in general, it's really a forever asset. Once you build it, if you maintain it correctly, you're going to last way more than your 50-year license. You can, I visited facilities that are operating effectively well over 100 years old. I'm thinking of them more as infrastructure. You build the hydropower to offset the cost of the flood control dam, and now you've got a beautiful reservoir, and the community comes, and you get a whole economy and summer houses and jobs around that facility, and it shapes the community. It helps build the community. It's infrastructure, and trying to finance long duration infrastructure like it's an energy project. It's very hard for pump storage to have an ROI that competes with a battery array when that battery array is going to be gone in 10, 15 years. And you're going to have to build a whole nother investment, what is it, 5, 6 plus times before the pump storage facility would need the 100-year life of a pump storage facility would go away. So it seems like it's somewhat of an unfair comparison, and shifting the paradigm, getting the people who are thinking about investing in pump storage to realize that this is an infrastructure investment that needs a different type of funding mechanism. Trying to do it using equity markets where they're looking for returns this quarter seems to me to be a bad fit for that kind of investment.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it. And I think that especially, people are more and more becoming aware, at least in their daily lives, of ideas of trying to invest their own hard-earned money in things that will last a long time, that, don't just get thrown away, things like that. And so likewise, a pump storage project that can last multiple battery durations, I think that concept might be something people can really wrap their heads around.
And I'll challenge your listeners who may be from the tech industry. I think Microsoft and Google and some of these other companies really have been incredible leaders at the forefront of pushing power purchase agreements and 100% renewable procurements, and they've really helped shape the industry. But I think they've got an obligation to go further and think about this as infrastructure. If they want 24/7 reliable data centers, then sure, buying solar and wind is great. You can firm it up with short duration 2-hour, 4-hour batteries. But if those data centers are going to be there for a long time, if AI is coming, make the investment in pump storage. Make the longer term investment. If all you're doing is putting in batteries, then you're going to be it's suboptimal. You're putting in battery array after battery array after battery array, and it's short-term thinking instead of the long-term thinking that some of the tech leaders are proud of.
Yeah, that's a incredibly powerful point, and yeah, I hope some people take notes at home here. I just want to ask as well, in terms of getting the latest updates from what's going on your end of things. I know last time that we spoke, about a year ago in the summertime, we were talking about some of the work that you were putting together for some licensing reform updates, maybe some stuff on kind of working on the tax code for hydropower in particular. Have we gotten some wins there? Are we making progress on some of these fronts?
Uh, Glad you asked the question. There's several updates. Let me start on the tax side. The Biden administration is finishing its rulemaking for the kind of updated tax code that goes into effect in January. And this is something that Senator Wyden from Oregon helped lead as part of the Senate Finance Committee and the Inflation Reduction Act. Starting in January, we're going to have a technology neutral tax code. So instead of tax incentives for technology specific activities, it's any kind of carbon free technology qualifies. And of course, hydropower is emissions free, so we qualify, which is great. So we're going to be treated just like wind and solar and every other carbon free resource. Equally exciting, or maybe even more exciting, that the Treasury has proposed clarifying in their guidance that if you are repowering a facility, if you're adding new blades onto a wind turbine, that can count as repowering a facility if it's more than 80% of the fair market value. And then that existing facility gets counted as a new facility. We're pushing hard for Treasury to clarify that those same rules apply to hydropower. So if you've got a hydropower facility that may be fully depreciated over 50 years, if you're investing in the powerhouse, if you're investing in the power generation equipment, that can qualify as repowering an existing facility and qualify as a new facility for tax purposes, which creates the same tax credits that wind and solar get. So I think that really could be a game changer for revitalizing the existing fleet, because now there'll be tax incentives for not just wind and solar, but also tax incentives for reinvesting in the existing hydropower. We don't need an act of Congress for that. I think that is the existing law, but Treasury's never been explicit about it. So we're trying to get that explicit. Again, we hope to get that clarification by the end of the year. And if you'll indulge me, Austin, we also just had a very exciting hearing in the Senate Energy Committee last week. Senators Manchin and Barrasso have been working for years trying to find the elusive deal on energy permitting. And they put together a deal, and they got a vote of 15-4 in favor of it. So these days, where there's so much partisanship, getting that kind of bipartisan package together is no small feat. It gives it a lot of momentum going to the Senate floor and to move over to the House. Unfortunately, there's some provisions in there that help hydropower, some extensions of start construction dates and some other focus provisions, but it's not the fundamental hydropower reform package that we wanted. And boy, did Senator Manchin and Barrasso hear about that at last week's hearing. The hearing dealt with, liquefied natural gas and coal and wind and transmission. And by far the topic that dominated the conversation was, why isn't there more for hydropower? So the Pacific Northwest has a great delegation. Senators Cantwell, Daines, Wyden, Risch, they all forcefully weighed in saying we need more on hydropower. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to be able to work with our Senate champions. And actually, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the most vocal champion of all, Senator Murkowski from Alaska. She was quite a forceful advocate at the hearing. And I'm hoping we're going to be able to add more so that it might not be a comprehensive overhaul of the process, but maybe we can get some common sense reforms included this Congress.
I suppose we need to give a shout out to Alaska between their adopting of a official state hydropower day and also their incredible work, it sounds like, on the battlefront for getting hydropower on some level playing field. That all sounds fantastic. I'd love to go back. Oh, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
I'd love to just go back to a point that you made, or a subject you brought up with regards to the tax clarification, I suppose, on repowering a facility. We just had Gia Schneider from Natel on not long ago to talk about fish safe turbine designs and the fantastic work they're doing there. And it sounds like if we were able to get kind of a good clarification here, maybe a big win, that repowering some of these facilities with a fish safe turbine could not only provide better fish passage, provide a more efficient design that can, in some cases, increase the generating capacity of a facility, but could also put that facility on, a major right track for giving it some incredible, opportunities with regards to, tax reform, tax credit, things like that.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited. I see it as a potential trifecta, and certainly a tipping point. We've got at least three things converging. We've got amazing fish-friendly turbines and designs. What Natel and others are doing is amazing. So we've got that technological innovation. At the same time, we've got the tax support. We've got the new tax credit. It's going to last for 10 years from when it was enacted a couple of years ago. So we've got certainty for a number of years. Hydropower qualifies at the same level as wind and solar. At one point, we were an orphan credit that had sunset. At another point, we literally got half of whatever wind got. Now we're getting full parity. And then the third trifecta in my thinking here is it's occurring when we've got a wave of relicensing about to come up. We've got I think it's roughly 400 facilities, half the non-federal fleet, up for relicensing by 2035. So these companies are actively debating internally, hey, should we invest in the facility and go through relicensing or not? And the fact that they can take advantage of the tax credit now is hopefully going to be just in time. And then if they can do it and make the investment with fish-friendly turbines, then it's a win-win for everybody.
No, it sounds like a fantastic win. I should also quickly touch on the fact too that I think we spoke a little bit last time about some work on powering non-powered dams. Have there been any updates on that front as well?
Yeah, I'm frustrated on that front. Progress has been far slower than I'd hoped. In fact, there was a study almost a dozen years ago of what are the top 100 sites of existing dams that we could add generation to, and only a handful have been done. Interestingly, I think it's 88 of those top 100 are Corps of Engineer facilities. And the Corps has so many missions, flood control, navigation, everything else they've got to handle, that unfortunately, power generation, which, by the way, the Corps is the number one owner of renewable resources in the United States, by far larger than any other entity, for hydro certainly, but also for wind, for solar, for anything else. So they are the Corps of Engineers is the number one renewable energy company in the country, but it's not their first mission. It's not how they're focused. And they're very decentralized, getting each district to focus on this. There's actually an amazing resource in the Pacific Northwest. The Hydropower Design Center, located in Portland, is a tremendous resource. Not every region has that kind of resource, but we need to somehow find a way to unlock at scale the non-power dams. And there's some innovative companies like Rye who are trying not to do one-offs, but saying, hey, we can do 20 projects over a period of time. Let's fund them in cycle. But that's not the way the Corps currently operates. So we're working on it. We did get language enacted as part of the recent Water Resources Development Act that required the Corps to make this a priority, and actually to staff some more national resources on this. So we're hoping that over time that'll bear fruit.
And I would imagine that as we're seeing now these increasing load growths that we talked about at the top of the episode, these 3 to 4% year over year growths, maybe that might be some of the motivation that we need to get some of these projects going.
Yeah, and let me just double down on that. Not only load growth, but I also coupled it with extreme weather. And I think we know that climate change is water change, to borrow a line from your former guest, Ajia Schneider. And with water change, particularly in the Pacific Northwest and the Western US, that means that we're going to get more rain we're going to get more rain and less snow, which means we're going to get more floods in the spring and more droughts in the summer. And I think climate adaptation needs to be a bigger part of the conversation. And I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but I could certainly imagine as part of climate adaptation, there may be areas where we need more water storage. There may be areas where the flood control risk or the risk of floods is much greater. And how do we pay for the infrastructure for water storage, for flood control? Hydropower is a great way to offset the costs of those kind of facilities. So I think a much more thoughtful conversation about climate adaptation also leads to a growth in hydropower. So I see the prospects out there, but decision making is so diffuse. I feel like the people who care about climate adaptation aren't the folks who focus on water scarcity, who aren't the folks who focus on power, and figuring out how these multi-purpose projects can get properly valued is a consistent challenge.
I completely hear you on that. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of getting us all kind of on the same page and in the same room talking to one another. And I think that progress is being made, but obviously there's much, much more to do. When it comes to some of these other challenges we have, I think we've talked a lot about the weather. We've talked a lot about the load growth. We also talked a little bit about these workforce challenges. In terms of the opportunities those create, I mean, we talked about some of the opportunities just now that are being created because of the weather challenges and data center and growth challenges we're facing. Are there some opportunities in this workforce space that you see as a potential to turn this potentially daunting outlook on a silver tsunami into a big win in terms of building a robust group of folks that are young and enthusiastic and ready to take on the continuation of the operation of these facilities for years to come?
Yeah, absolutely. I see a direct, exciting opportunity for workforce development. We need to replace the retiring talent that we've got. And if you think about the opportunities for growth, we've mentioned just in this last conversation, the dozens and dozens of pump storage projects that are under consideration. We need to get some of them actually built. The revitalization of the existing fleet, repowering the existing fleet, building non-power dams, maintaining all the dams, all the facilities that are out there. And if I was new to the industry, a transfer from another sector, someone new to the hydropower industry, I'd be looking at lots of opportunities for growth. And it's not just necessarily on the hydropower side. A lot of those same skills, the marine biologists, the underwater welders, all of these skills apply also to the broader question of the 90,000 plus dams that we have in the country, and how do we maintain them in a safe way. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. NHA is partnering with the Hydro Foundation and excited by their Water Power Club, WC Squared initiative to try to create more clubs at universities, bring people to their local hydropower facilities, let them see what this industry looks like, and hopefully bring them into the industry. And once they get here, NHA now has our new hydropower professional development class, systems principles class, to help those folks transferring from other industries or new to the industry to get trained and get certified and get be able to contribute. So there's a lot going on in this space.
A lot of great things for sure. And I just also want to mention too, while we're talking about bringing people together, getting people working together, in this case, bringing them in for their spaces, you also mentioned that we're seeing some great bipartisan support for some of these efforts. I'd love to know, it seems like there's a lot more bipartisan momentum, which is, of course, incredibly important to accomplishing some of these feats. Is bipartisan support for hydropower strengthening since the last time we talked? And if so, what do you think the reasoning for that is?
I do think that bipartisan support is strengthening. I think in part it's because the visibility of the industry is growing. I think we're doing a better job raising our voice, but we've got a long way to go. So we're 6% of overall electricity generation in this country. So we're 6%. We're not 60%. Pacific Northwest, it might be closer to 60%. But nationally, we need to keep our visibility up so people will remember and not take us for granted. And the bipartisanship is a tradition for hydropower. If you care about domestic supply, baseload, dispatchable, hydropower provides all of the things that Republicans traditionally are looking for in their energy mix. And if you want it to be clean and emission free and be able to put more variable renewables on the grid, then again, hydropower is a great resource. In fact, the Department of Energy recently did a study finding that hydropower can support, I think it's 140 gigawatts of variable renewables, the existing hydropower. Or to put it another way, if you took the existing hydropower away, if that hydropower were to retire, suddenly you'd have no way to support 140 gigawatts of wind and solar. And you'd need gas, and then you'd be curtailing the wind and solar. So I think there's a lot of appreciation on both sides of the aisle that hydropower is important. One tangible example of that is an effort I haven't yet touched on, but it's an effort to try to provide incentives to reinvest in the existing fleet, not by making investments in the powertrain. I think that's already in the tax code, and hopefully Treasury will clarify. But these would be other big investments that you often have to make during relicensing, investments in dam safety, maybe expanding the size of your spillway, or investments in fish passage or sediment management or something else. We now have 13 or 14 senators on a bipartisan bill led by Senators Cantwell and Murkowski, both from Pacific Northwest, to try to get that tax piece. Again, it's infrastructure. It doesn't increase kilowatts, but it improves fish passage, dam safety, and we've been getting sponsors NOAA ARC style, 2x2, a Republican and a Democrat at the same time, to keep the bill bipartisan. So I think that's just one of many examples. There's bipartisan proposals for licensing reform. We're continuing to work with our Uncommon Dialogue coalition, including members of the river community, tribal nations, dam safety officials, trying to make progress there. But I think one thing we've learned is even being bipartisan isn't enough. There's often folks in Washington prefer to have the issue and prefer to yell at each other than to solve the issue. So we're still pushing, but I do feel like we've got a little bit more wind at our back.
Well, I can tell you one thing. We are looking forward to helping, at least on the visibility front, when it comes to making sure that hydropower stays on people's minds. We're going to be doing that with this upcoming National Hydropower Day. We're really looking forward to making that a part of our effort to keep hydropower visible, and we'll continue to do so by keeping that momentum flowing, like I said. So really excited for that, really looking forward to that. And I think we've got a great opportunity this year to make a really big push there.
We appreciate it, and I love the creativity that I've seen come out of this. I saw folks having just 3D design contests and doing all sorts of things in their community, and hosting elected officials so they know that the facility exists, and just really funny posts and songs, and the creativity is wonderful. We've got to get Taylor Swift or some other folks to get involved, jump on the bandwagon.
We'll see what we can do there. I don't know if we have any contacts on our end, but
Taylor, if you're listening, give me a call.
Yeah, maybe we need to find an agent for hydropower to get in touch with these other talent agents and things like that.
I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the time today. I know that we covered a lot of ground, a lot of exciting, amazing things happening. Some, of course, unique challenges that we have to face as always, but a lot of opportunities out there. And as we get to the tail end of these episodes, I know you've been on before, so you know what's coming next. I don't have to hit you with it out of a total surprise, like a lot of our guests get here, maybe you including the first time. But we always close out with this little advice segment. try and again, give people the opportunity to get to know our guests themselves better. I think, given the fact you've been on before, you've given us a great piece of advice in the past. Maybe I'll pitch it to you a little bit different way. What's something that you've learned personally and professionally in the last year or so that has been impactful to you and how you conduct your work and continue to be a successful leader in the hydropower industry?
Wow, that's a great question. I guess maybe I'll respond as a continuation of my last comment that bipartisanship in Washington is really hard. And even when we've gotten some remarkable bipartisanship, and to tout just kind of one recent example, Senator Cantwell is our lead sponsor on license reform, and she's working with Senator Daines from Idaho. And one's a Democrat, one's a Republican. Senator Daines is chair of the Republican campaign committee. His job is to get other Republicans elected. So he was endorsing Cantwell's opponent in the primary that was just earlier this week. Yet, despite that kind of political opposition, they're working together in Washington. But even that isn't enough to get things done. And I guess my reminder to myself is that despite the frustrations, despite how hard it is, it's worth doing. And it's worth doing in a way that preserves your personal integrity. That you can't let these fights, emotions run high. There's a lot of excitement in last week's hearing, but if you're true to yourself, preserve your personal integrity. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so that's things I'm keeping in mind this week.
I think that will ring especially true for folks and be a really good reminder for our listeners. Is I know that certainly applies when it comes to an election year as we head into November. It's a great reminder to make sure that we keep our personal integrity intact as we navigate some of these challenges and disagreements on how to get things done.
Not worth destroying friendships and other things over the political conversation. You can nod and say that's interesting and start talking about football or something else.
That's a great strategy. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time today. I really appreciate it. I know our listeners will greatly appreciate the update that we got from what's happening on the national forefront. And I think that we've got some really great, exciting things coming up. So we'll make sure, like I said, to give them an opportunity to celebrate as part of National Hydropower Day, or in this case, celebrate for the whole week. And we'll see what we can do on that forefront of continuing to build the momentum there. And then, of course, for especially the industry folks listening, we've got a great event coming up in Clean Currents. So we'll look forward to being there and look forward to seeing a bunch of friendly, familiar faces.
Appreciate it, Austin. Really value the work that you do, that Clark does. Northwest River Partners is a great ally. So looking forward to continuing the partnership.
It goes without saying that heading up an organization like the National Hydropower Association is no easy task. So we truly owe our gratitude to Malcolm for giving us his time and connecting with our Northwest audience. National Hydropower Day will be in full celebration a week from the release of this podcast. So if you're keeping track of your calendars, that will be happening on Friday, August 23rd. And we hope you'll join us by sharing how hydro powers you on social media. If you want to get in on the fun, simply follow NW River Partners on Facebook, Instagram, and X, where we'll be posting and celebrating along with all of our members. Then all you have to do is go to our page, share our post, and write up your own caption if you'd like. You can also get far more creative, put together your own post, really whatever you'd prefer. Just be sure to include hashtag HydroDay and hashtag HydroPowers. Still have questions about how all of that social media stuff works? Don't worry, we're here to help. You can head over to nwriverpartners.org and click on Contact Us. Then go ahead and write in with, well, anything you'd like to. We're always happy to hear from our listeners and answer questions or engage in conversation. You can also use this to tell us who or what you'd like to hear on the podcast next. For those who prefer, we can also be reached directly via email at info@nwriverpartners.org. As always, I also have to include my regular appeal for positive reviews and subscribers on your favorite listening platform. And let's not get it mixed up. These aren't merely to pad my ego as a mediocre podcaster. Reviews and subscriptions boost the ranking of DAM in search results, helping new listeners discover us. And this really helps us continue to provide your favorite water-powered podcast. So do yourself a favor and get on it with the reviews and make sure to subscribe. In any case, you can also turn on notifications while you're at it, which can be helpful reminders in case you forget to tune in every other Friday. And as always, I appreciate your listenership and support of our work. We'll be eagerly anticipating Hydropower's big day next Friday and look forward to celebrating with you all. So, until next time, see ya.